like the parable of the blind men in a room trying to describe an elephant. That we are operating in a digital context that is altering everything about our business, right? Everyone's got a point of view on it. Everyone is describing what they feel and what they're imagining this thing in front of them to be, but they have no idea what it is because they're too close to it. They're too enmeshed in it. And the way, of course, to kind of get better understanding is to take a step back. So digital, when we talk about digital, it's a practice. The second way we talk about digital is also a channel, right? But when I talk about digital, I'm not talking about either one of those two things. It's important to recognize that for me, that digital is the context in which all of our business is wrapped. It's the context in which everything we do is wrapped. Our total human experience over the last 25 years has been shaped by what digital technology has done to us. So the combination of bandwidth and networks have changed everything for us. Social scientists have been studying this phenomena, the impact of big bandwidth and networks on human behavior. And they describe 5 transformational waves. So the first wave was the creation of massive amounts of information. Scientists around the world and in universities around the world and the government started attaching big databases to the internet. And then something came along called the browser, which changed everything. It was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly every client was saying, what about the web? What is happening here? It was a transformational moment, not only for the world, but for our business. Wave number 1. Wave number 2 involves the creation of social networks. 6 years ago, we never talked about social networks to our clients, and now that's all we talk to them about, right? I mean, it changed everything about the way we interact with people we know. It allowed us to kind of keep in touch with friends and make new friends around the world in ways we never did before. Number 3 is about data. It's about creating and organizing extensive data, deep data. We refer to it as big data. And no one really knows what that means. We're still trying to figure that out because we're in the first part of this wave, right? We're in the creation part of this wave. And once we figure out how to organize this extensive data, it's going to transform our business as significantly as Facebook did, as significantly as Netscape did in its time. The fourth wave is about creating and organizing virtual experiences. I'm talking about a 3-dimensional virtual environment where you are there, but you're not there, if you know what I mean. Finally, number 5. Now we're really getting into kind of a science fiction space. Ray Kurzweil, who's Google's new chief engineer, sort of a scientist, a great thinker, calls this 5th wave the singularity. Basically, the singularity means it will be what happens when these super intelligent machines that are enabled by networks and bandwidth light up with something resembling intelligence. I mean, I realize that, you know, we're right in the middle of the 3rd wave, as I said. The 4th wave is kind of 10 years away. The 5th wave is 20 years away. What are we going to do in this environment, we being Edelman, to differentiate ourselves? How are we going to maintain our leadership position in the marketing industry by being alert to and very, very smart about what is happening around us, this digital context? My answer to how we differentiate ourselves is really pretty simple. It's by being producers of great content. And I would argue pretty strongly that content is not core to our business. We do it, but we're not really organized in the right way to produce it. We're organized around account teams, not content teams. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just true. I think we need to kind of look at that. We need to re-examine that as an organizational principle. If we have a business that can create great content and deliver great content, I think there's nobody who can stop us, right? Talk about stories, and for me, great content equals great stories, right? They provide the connective power that brings people together. Public engagement is all about connective power and bringing people together. How do you do that? I think you do it around stories. If you remember at the center of the cloverleaf, there's 2 things. There's search and there's content. That start button represents content. If you kind of go inside of that, and if you go inside this molecule called great content and look at the nucleus, I would argue there are 3 things that live at the center that we as an organization need to be focused on as storytellers, as content creators. The first is analytics. Number two, every great story, all great content has a strategy. The third part of great content is creativity. And I don't think I need to explain why creativity matters for storytelling. If it's not creative, it's boring, and no one's going to be interested in your story, right? But these three pieces are at the center of storytelling. So organizationally, what does that mean for our business? How do you incorporate this into the way we operate? I think something we can do immediately and something we need to put in our business plans for next year is a strategy for how we put these three things at the center of our storytelling. How we go to market with a storytelling point of view that is shaped by these three characteristics. I want people to understand that when we talk about digital, what we're talking mostly about is this context in which we operate, the context that's changing our business and changing our lives. Because right now, we're all blind men trying to describe that elephant when we talk about digital. So at this point in this conversation, I hope you're not asking yourself, what is he talking about? I hope not. I hope instead what you're asking yourself is, how are we going to do this? And, it would be wrong to not kind of take a moment and reflect back on Dan Edelman and his contribution to the industry, his contribution to all of us, right? I think Dan was indomitable. He was a relentless figure. And I think we have that in common. Every one of you has this sort of quality of, I'm going to make this happen. I think that each one of us, myself included, need to think about our role in the firm and our role in this industry within this digital context. We need to have a personal point of view about how I fit in the digital context, knowing where it is, knowing where it's headed. What does that mean for me as a professional? We can't ignore this. We can't say, that's interesting, but it's not for me. It's not about me. It doesn't apply to me. We must act.